Good morning. All right, we're going to start our program today. Welcome to Chancellor's opening session. I'm the Acting Chancellor, Dr. Deborah Fitzsimmons, and I'd like to begin our session today by thanking all of you for a very warm welcome to me as I serve in this transitional role. Thank you very much. I'm sure you are aware that by now that Chancellor Gary Portner has retired on June 30th. And Gary's retirement was a surprise to many of us. His contributions to this district are numerous as Chancellor and also as Deputy Vice Chancellor when he was here for many, many years prior to that. We will certainly miss him and his good-natured ways. So I guess today is really the Acting Chancellor's opening session. I thank you all for being here and for your support. I'd like to ask Student Trustee Jonathan Ford to open our opening session this morning with the Pledge of Allegiance, and we will then hear from our Board President, Tim Jamal. Please stand.
All right, everyone, please join me in reciting a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. What a great turnout today. I am Tim Jamal, I'm the board president. Pleasure to be here. I guess my first instructions are to introduce my colleagues on the board, and we have almost all of us here. So I'll start with Vice President of our board, Trustee Jim Wright. Former President and now Trustee T.J. Prendergast. Trustee Terry Witt. Trustee Marcia Milchiker. And Trustee Bobby J. So as Deborah mentioned, we're undergoing a period of transition here, but as I think some of you were here yesterday, I mentioned yesterday, with change comes some opportunity. And I echo Deborah's statement, thanking Chancellor Portner for his years of service. He did make significant contributions to the district, and we really thank him for that. Over the next few months, we are going to be undertaking a search for a new chancellor. We have a special session next month where we're going to select the search firm, and I think it's a really exciting time. We have an outstanding district. What an amazing district we have. And every time I look at the numbers in terms of the transfer rates and the CTE and the certificates that we award and the universities to which we transfer our students to, everywhere I go, I hear about Irvine Valley College and Saddleback College. I'm really proud to be a member of the board, and I'm really excited about the next few months that'll take place in the district. It is an amazing district. We're an already great district, and I think we can be even greater going forward. I will say that Deborah Fitzsimmons has the full support of our Board of Trustees. We're very pleased she stepped into this role, and she's going to be an anchor in the transition process going forward. As we move ahead with these transitions, please know that we will be transparent about it. We want to hear your input. Some of you will be involved in the process directly. And I think it's just an amazing, really exciting time to be part of the South Orange County Community College District. Proud to be board president, proud to serve with an excellent board of trustees, and I can assure you we're not perfect, and we don't always agree. We had some challenges over the last few months, but we're respectful. And every member of the board wants to make this the best possible district in the state of California and the nation, and I think we can do that. Thank you very much.
Okay, so before we begin, allow me to introduce some very important guests who are joining us today and will be our keynote speakers. If you could stand, we have Vaughn Ton Quinlivan. Vaughn is the Vice Chancellor of Economic and Workforce Development for the California Community College System. And we also have Steve Glyer. Steve chaired the regional consortia for LA and Orange County. He has been highly involved with the regional implementation of these very critical initiatives. Welcome. Later in the program, they will provide us with both state and regional overviews of the new Strong Workforce Initiative. And this new initiative will bring community colleges and the workforce together in unprecedented ways to strategically address California's training needs and skills gaps. Thank you both for making the trip down to see us, and this is a real privilege to have you here. Thank you. I'd also like to introduce some other special people, our executive team members. Here with us today are Saddleback College's president, Todd Burnett. If you could stand. Irvine Valley College president, Glenn Rockmore. Vice Chancellor of Technology and Learning Services, Bob Ramucci. Vice Chancellor of Human Resources, David Begay. And our new to-be acting Vice Chancellor of Business Services, C.M. Brombot. I also want to welcome our governance leaders. We have with us today Kim D'Arcy, who is Saddleback College's Academic Senate President. Kim, are you here? Kathy Schmeidler, Irvine Valley College's Academic Senate President. Craig Connor, Saddleback College's Classified Senate President. Karen Martin, Irvine Valley College's Classified Senate President. Mark Blethen, our Faculty Association President. Scott Green, CSCA's President. And last but not least, Santos Garcia, POA President. Thank you all for being here today to show your support and commitment. It's the start of a new and vibrant academic year, and we have many new faculty members to introduce. So I am very pleased to ask Presidents Glenn Rockmore and Todd Burnett to please join me up here on stage to introduce their new full-time faculty.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's always a pleasure to start the new semester with all of you. And one of the most favorite things that I get to do as president is hire new faculty. Wonderful event. So we have this year Assistant Professor of Chemistry, Tom Cullen. Assistant Professor of Mathematics, Ronald Dolben. Assistant Professor of Mathematics, Catherine Famigletti. Assistant Professor of Counseling, International, Dalal Farsak. Assistant Professor, Counselor in Basic Skills, Mark Franco. Assistant Professor, Counselor for our veterans, Eric Garcia. Assistant Professor, Counselor Generalist, Angel Hernandez. Assistant Professor, English Instructor, Basic Skills, Jeffrey Johnson. Assistant Professor, Japanese, Amiko Kiyochi. Assistant Professor for Dance, Jennifer La Curan. Assistant Professor, English Composition, Emily Liu. Assistant Professor, Counseling, Vanessa Marquez. Assistant Professor, Electrical Technology, Massimo Mitolo. Assistant Professor, Communication Studies, William Neeson. Assistant Professor, Biology, Pierre Nguyen. Assistant Professor, Counseling in STEM, Tuan Nguyen. Assistant Professor, English as a Second Language, Brent Warner. And Assistant Professor, Laser Technology, Desiree Whitmore. Welcome to all of you.
Good morning, everyone. As President Jamal said, our district's great and we can even be greater, and I'm pleased to introduce, along with the IVC tenure track faculty, 19 additional tenure track faculty will help us be greater. First, Professor of Chemistry, Sam Abbas. Assistant Professor of Mathematics, Sang Choi. Another Professor of Mathematics, Nancy Zhuang. Assistant Professor of Adult Education and ESL, Annie Gilbert. A new professor for our paramedic program, Patricia Gleed. Assistant Professor for Art and Ceramics, Laura Haight. Assistant Professor for English Composition, Bridget Hoyda Mulholland. Assistant Professor for Foods and Nutrition, Lori Houlihan. Assistant Professor for Accounting, Elizabeth Jennison. Assistant Professor for Accounting, Jane Medling. And one of, I believe, 3 of our assistant professors for nursing. First is Jennifer Nastansky and Jacqueline Novak. And assistant professor of economics, Jennifer Pacula. Not listed in the program, unfortunately, but he actually didn't start as technically the middle of last year, so we did not recognize him last year. But Terrence Nelson is our Veterans Coordinator and Veterans Counselor. Assistant Professor for Environmental Studies, John Richards. Assistant Professor of Biology, Catherine Shaw. Assistant Professor of Medical Assistance, Susan White Alcover. And finally, our Assistant Professor of Online Learning, Librarian, Alicia Zach. Welcome.
Okay, so we also have some other new faces here today, and those are of new administrators and managers and others assuming new roles at the district and colleges. And there are also a few very recent hires that aren't in the program, but please stand when I call your name. There's John Osted, who's the new Director of Purchasing Contracts and Materials Management. C.M. Brombot, Acting Vice Chancellor, Business Services. Maureen Oliver, Risk Manager for Fiscal Services, Office of Business Services. Sarah Sparazza, Workers' Compensation and Safety Manager. Christian Alvarado, Dean of Enrollment Services. Marina Amini, Dean of Online Education and Learning Resources. Mary Onstad, Grant Project Manager, Career Pathways. Susan Donaldson, Director of Foster and Kinshare Care Education Program. Georgina Guy, Interim Dean of Transfer, Career, and Special Programs. Jennifer Klein, Director of Research Planning and Accreditation. Erin McHenry, Director of Annual Giving and Development Services. Akira Art Nita, Dean of Mathematics, Science, and Engineering. Diane Pestalesi, Assistant Dean of Health Sciences and Human Services. Lisa Shanitsky, Psychological Health Services Supervisor. Penelope Scaff, Dean of Counseling Services. Angela Yang, Director of International Student Programs. Congratulations to the managers at both District Service and Saddleback College, and I'd like to say, here's the list for Irvine Valley College. Tracy Ann Fahimi, Dean of Social and Behavior Sciences. Jeffrey Hurlbutt, Director of Facilities. Melissa Martinez, Director of Annual Giving and Development Services. John Meyer, Police Operations Lieutenant. Ann Petrosian, Assistant Director of Facilities, Capital Outlay Projects. Patrick Taylor, Director of Arts Production Management. Welcome to all of our new folks. As Trustee Jamal mentioned, it looks like we might have forgotten somebody. Okay.
So sorry.
President Burnett has to.
I'm sorry to interrupt,
That's
but
okay. Who do we
I
have?
mentioned 3 nurses, and while I was up here,
Right.
I'm going, I thought I only said 2, and I did, and I apologize very much. Our 3rd nursing associate professor is Nahid Meshkin. I'm sorry.
Welcome to all of you. As Trustee Jamel mentioned, we are in a time of transition, and one that could take a little time, and we all go through transitions in our life, at work, and at home. I'm confident that we all have the ability to embrace that change does bring opportunities. I think that this year will be a many changes and many opportunities for us, and during this transition year, there will be opportunities for us to work together and work on improving things together and on strengthening our relationships with each other. One of our most important district-wide efforts this coming year is the reaffirmation of our accreditation. Our colleges are currently working on their self-study reports. This occurs only once every 7 years, as you may already know, but is important because it forces us to pause and reflect. It helps us to identify where we are strong and where there is room for improvement. We have a few district services managers and administrators who are also helping and working on the accreditation steering committee, and so far this has been a very collaborative and respectful process. I am very appreciative of that. It's in the best interest of our students to get through this long and intense analysis smoothly, and also both colleges will be providing accreditation updates this week during Professional Development Week, so I encourage you to attend and to see what is happening with the college accreditation process. There are other exciting changes underway, and some that are really physical changes that are bringing positive opportunities for our students and our faculty. I'm excited that we have 2 facility grand openings that will happen this fall semester, one at each campus. This is very special for us. New buildings don't happen every day. So it's pretty extraordinary to open 2 new buildings in the same semester. and maybe just a little stressful too. I'm sure that some of you who are occupying those buildings can relate with that. We might not want to do 2 in the same semester ever again, but here we are. Saddleback College has a brand new sciences building with multiple state-of-the-art labs. They have green sustainable features that brought LEED certification at the gold level, and that's truly amazing for a science building. The building is quite significant as well and breathtaking in many ways. It is both breathtaking in stature because it's about 85,000 square foot. It has 3 stories, 2 elevators, and it's also breathtaking in its attributes. It houses many labs to conduct hands-on training in chemistry, biology, and physics. Our students will have a very real advantage taking their courses in a high-caliber environment that is on par with facilities that are usually only seen at research universities. Having worked in my past life at the University of Hawaii, where we built many marvelous and high-end research and teaching labs, I can attest to the fact that these lab facilities even exceed some of the labs that you will see at these universities, and it's truly amazing. The building also strategically connects Saddleback's lower campus to the upper campus, which brings continuity and effectively bridges the campuses for students and staff, and it does it with a very pleasing design. Irvine Valley College also opens its new liberal arts building with a strong focus on student-centered spaces. The building has a lot within it as well. It's 2 stories and has close to 28,000 square feet. It also has a sustainable design, which includes daylight harvesting, a water retention basin on its exterior, and will be using non-potable water for the toilets. It has a numerous classroom. Yay! It has numerous classrooms and labs, and it has a writing lab and writing center. It has an honor study area, a faculty office suite. You all have a suite now, and gathering areas for the students. Humanities, English, writing, language arts, anthropology, geography, and social sciences will be taught there. Both of these buildings will bring a new and exciting energy and add to the attractive landscape to both of the campuses. There will be a modern and innovative environment for students to learn and faculty to teach. And let's help each other out as these transitions to the new facilities take place. There will be grand opening events for both of these new buildings to showcase them, and they're going to include tours. I hope you'll mark your calendars to attend them and support the departments. Saddleback's grand opening is going to be September 29th from 4 to 6:30 p.m. I believe that's the time, President Burnett, right? He's saying, what? 4 to 7 p.m., and that's September 29th. That's for their science building. IVC's grand opening at the A400 Liberal Arts Building is being determined, but it's going to be in October sometime, according to President Rockmore. So they'll be sending out invitations to these events as more details are provided. In addition to these newly constructed facilities, we will have a groundbreaking on Friday, September 16th, for IVC's first building at ATEP. This is a very innovative building, which is going to be a state-of-the-art building for our career and technical education students, and will be a unique model for IVC's partnerships with industry and educational partners. The ATEP groundbreaking also initiates construction of the ATEP's utilities, infrastructure, and roadways for the first phase of the entire site development. And this is a very significant step. There's going to be 2 entrances coming into ATEP, 2 roadways coming in. Victory Road, which was formerly known as Bell Avenue, is going to be extended to the site, and we're going to have an additional road access then with Victory Road coming in to the site of ATEP, which is going to be very helpful. This is a huge stride forward on ATEP progress, and once the construction of the new building is underway and that infrastructure is in place, partners are really going to want to be part of ATEP. A momentum is really going to begin there. Other exciting facilities projects that you should be aware of include the design of the stadium and related site improvement projects at Saddleback College, This project has been, in a need for the renovation has been at Saddleback for many, many, many years. And folks have been trying to get this going for, I think, close to 20 years, I heard. So the college, the community, and particularly our athletes are thrilled and overjoyed that we're finally making this happen. Dean Lippol's here, so he's very thrilled to see this happen. Yay! And lastly, at IVC, the design for the new health center and concessions building has taken place, and this space was also very sorely needed at IVC. They're equally delighted to see this new space be added for the benefit of IVC students. I want to thank the Board of Trustee members for supporting these crucial projects. These provide leading-edge, flexible learning spaces for our students and faculty, and without your support, we wouldn't be able to get these projects going. So thank you, board members. And I also want to really acknowledge our diligent work that gets done at the district and colleges to make this happen, both at the college level and district-wide. We have college planning committees that take place. We have the district-wide planning committees like KIC, BARC, and with their guidance and leadership over the last few years, we've been able to prioritize, work together, and get these projects started. So thank you. Facilities planning is a huge effort and cannot occur without the input and collaboration of constituencies district-wide. And this year, we're going to embark on another massive and very complex planning effort to update our education and facilities master plan. This plan effectively lays out our long-term master plan by both our vision and our needs, and it speaks to our educational programs and campus facilities for over the next 20 years. And so this is a very, very important project. There will be a very thorough, collaborative, data-driven, inclusive, and extensive effort with this project, and it's going to occur over the next 18 months to 2 years. So very, very key project at the district and at the colleges. So that is coming. There's going to be multiple opportunities over the course of the 2 years for everyone to get involved, so please attend some of these sessions because your input is going to be very critical in determining future priorities. It's going to be very important for you to do so. So speaking of other changes, Trustee Jamal mentioned transitioning this year, and we're going to have the search starting for the permanent chancellor. So I thought I'd fill in a little bit more details. I know folks are asking, how's it going to work? What is the process going to be? So what can you expect from the permanent chancellor search? Okay. This is a key position, as you're aware, and I'm sure you want to know what the process is as well as the timing. We have recently issued a request for proposals. It's an RFP, and that's for the search firm consultants to assist with the search process. So those proposals are due Monday, okay? And then they're going to be screened, and the top 3 are going to be presented to the board. They're going to do presentations. We have a special board meeting that's been now slated. We have the date for that. It's September 13th. The board members are going to hear these presentations, probably about a half hour each firm, and they're going to evaluate them and make the selection of the search firm that evening. So that's happening September 13th, so that's a key step. In the meantime, I've asked Chancellor's Council. Chancellor's Council is a shared governance group that advises the Chancellor, and it consists of administrators, managers, and shared government representatives from across the district and colleges. And I've asked them to come to the next council meeting and be prepared to discuss the Chancellor's position description and attributes that they would like to see in the next chancellor. So they're doing their homework right now. We meet again in September, so that we're going to have that discussion there. We're going to gather that input, and we're going to share that with the Board of Trustees, because the Board of Trustees and the search firm working together are going to then, in 2 different sessions, develop the chancellor's job description as far as revision of it, and they're going to develop the final version of the attributes for the next chancellor. So that'll take place. And your input through your shared governance representatives will be key to that as well. Once those are finalized, then we'll advertise for the chancellor position. And the time period for these type of positions are usually fairly long because we really do need to have time for folks to pull things together. So we're going to be estimating that advertisement to be at the end of October all the way through the middle of January because we have the holidays in there, a winter break, that kind of thing. So then that brings us to about the third week of January. And we expect to get great interest with this position. We have the best, in my opinion, the best district in the state, and we should be able to get cream of the crop candidates for this position. So the search firm is going to be key in helping us to cultivate candidates. You know, we're well known, we're respected, we have high quality. Reach out to people, get good experienced quality people applying to this position. The search committee will be formed according to a board policy we have for Chancellor search. So some of your participatory governments groups representatives were served on this committee, and we're going to tweak the BP, the board policy, a little bit. There's a little bit of clarification language in there that we need to sort of, get in place. So we're going to do that with BPARC prior to that, before this all starts. But the search committee is going to conduct the first level interviews. And they're going to recommend a group of finalists for the chancellor. During this time period, the search firm is going to then take a look at the references, both at the initial interviews and then a very, very, very thorough reference checking is going to be done for the finalist group. So that's going to take place as well. So then when we get to the finalist stage, we're going to have opportunities for all of you to meet the finalist candidates. And we haven't done this before in the past. It's just been a committee of the board members. No one else got to really engage with the finalists. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to have public forums at each of the two colleges. With each of the finalists that are taking place, each of the interviews with the finalists that are taking place the same day, and that gives you an opportunity to meet them, ask them questions, and provide evaluations of those sessions. Those evaluation forms from all of you, when you meet each of the finalists during those public forums, are going to be shared with the Board of Trustees. And again, another opportunity for the board to review those. And as they're conferring and they're interviewing the finalists, they'll have that information. And that's really going to be a key part that we really did not have in the past. So with that, the board will interview the finalists and they will select the next chancellor. So all this takes place with primary activities taking place in the springtime, and we anticipate the new chancellor will start next July before the next academic year. So as you can see, it's not going to be a very dull year. This will indeed be a transitional year, but one I believe will set the stage for a very new, different, and positive chapter for the college and district. Thank you. Okay, so enough of that. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Irvine Valley College Professor Susan Betcher. She has kindly arranged for our musical interlude today. Susan? Here you are.
Good morning. Yes, I'm Susan Betcher. I am from IVC's piano department, and I'm delighted to introduce two of our piano students, Jin Kyung Kim and Yoon Oh. They have been in our weekly piano master classes for several years. It's a class called Piano Performance and Ensemble. And they will be playing the variations on a very popular theme by Paganini. So it will start with this theme by Paganini, and then you will hear around 6 continuous variations by Lutoslawski. And it's very jazzy and very energetic. It's one of our favorite pieces. We hope you enjoy. Thank you.
It is always so much fun to watch the energy our students bring to these events. Thank you so much, Jin and Yoon, for that beautiful piano duo. What a way to liven up this place. Thank you. And now, on to our keynote presentation. We are honored to welcome two champions of the state's new Strong Workforce Initiative. Vaughn Ton Quinlivan will provide a state overview of the initiative, and Steve Glyer will provide a more regional focus. Over the past several years, the State Chancellor's Office has been working to address the skills gap. This year, in an extraordinary milestone, the State Chancellor's Office was able to secure a $200 million budget appropriation in the community college budget for this initiative. This money will be strategically allocated to assist community colleges and regional employers. This should improve the state's workforce health. Vaughn is Vice Chancellor, Workforce and Economic Development for the California Community Colleges. And as you're aware, that's comprised of 113 colleges, 72 districts, and it's the largest and most complex higher education system in the nation. She was appointed by the governor in 2011, and her leadership focus is on doing what matters for jobs and the economy. The goal is to improve workforce outcomes for 2.1 million California community college students and to fuel the strong regional economies. Her administrative responsibilities has grown to $700 million from an initial $100 million as a result of her ability to inspire others towards a common and unifying vision. She was named a White House Champion of Change in 2013 for her distinguished career in industry, education, and service as a community leader. And she spearheaded the Board of Governors Task Force on Workforce, Job Creation, and a Strong Economy. She brought together industry, labor, social justice, public agencies, youth advocates, and community college leaders in this role. Together, they developed a set of strong workforce policy recommendations to close the gap on the industry-valued credentials needed by California. The resulting 25 recommendations were unanimously adopted by the Board of Governors last fall. Vaughn has also vice-chaired the National Skills Coalition, co-chaired the Workforce Action Team of the California Economic Senate, serves on the California Council on Science and Technology, and she served on the AACC Closing the Skills Gap implementation team. Most recently, she participated in Tom Steyer's Fair Shake Commission on Inequality and Opportunity in California to examine policy strategies to close the state's income inequality gap. She holds degrees from the Stanford Graduate School of Business, Stanford Graduate School of Education, and Georgetown University. And today she will share with us a statewide perspective on the Strong Workforce Initiative. Co-presenting with her is Steve Glyer. Stephen is recently stepped down after 3 years as co-chair of the LA and Orange County Regional Consortia, LAOCRC. The LAOCRC is one of 7 economic regions under the Doing What Matters framework led by Vice Chancellor Vaughn Ton Quinlivan. The consortia is comprised of 27 community colleges and located throughout LA and Orange County. As co-chair, Mr. Glyer worked with his team to unify the LAOC region by reconstituting, rebuilding, and resetting the framework for doing what matters for jobs in the economy. He worked closely with industry, CTE deans, business councils, chambers of commerce, deputy sector navigators, and technical assistant providers to support emerging and priority sectors to address labor and program shortages. Mr. Glyer comes from a strong background in business and industry, working for over 12 years with Apple Computer, Pioneer Electronics, and both of those as account executive, regional manager, and national marketing director. For the last 14 years, he has provided leadership for the Newport Mesa Unified School District, and he was served as their director of educational technology and director of CTE. In this capacity, he worked closely with other CTE leaders throughout the Orange County and helped found CTEOC, which is a collaborative of CTE leaders from all 9 community colleges, 4 ROPs, and 13 high school districts in the county. Mr. Glyer has returned to his roots here in Orange County, now serving as a consultant for workforce development for the Orange County Department of Education. His experience in both K-12 and community colleges provides him with insight and working knowledge of these interlinking educational systems. Pathway development, data alignment, CTE, credentialing are just some of the key issues he will be addressing. So please join me in welcoming Von Ton Quinlivan and Stephen Glyer.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Acting Chancellor Fitzsimmons. And it's so wonderful to be here and have an invitation from Terry Flugelman to come down to the South Orange County District. It's great to see President Burnett and President Roquefort to be here with their faculty, their administrators, their classified staff, and all other staff. I have the honor of traveling around the state, and I often come and give stories of Orange County, what's Orange County is doing. And so continue your leadership. It's a good time in the community colleges right now. So as introduced, my name is Von Ton Quinlivan. I'm Vice Chancellor for Workforce and Economic Development. At one point in my life, I taught adjunct and hovered around the community colleges. But I didn't really get deep into workforce development until one day I got angry. I got really angry. I was at that time working for a company of 20,000 men and women. It was one of the largest gas and utility companies in the nation, right here in California. And I heard from first-line supervisors. They said, we just can't get minorities into these jobs. They said, we could not get minorities into these jobs. Now, as a first-generation immigrant, as a product of English as a second language, I knew that was not true. I knew that there were communities interested in these very good paying jobs if, one, they were aware, and secondly, they understood what it takes to get into these good jobs. And so I asked them the question, well, what have you attempted? They said, well, we even took the extraordinary effort of engaging our community-based organization and had them bring together their clients or participants, and we would administer the pre-employment test. And out of 30 in the room, we would get 1 who had passed the pre-employment test. And that was before the drug test and the background check. So we're just having a dismal experience reaching out to the communities to get qualified, diverse candidates for these jobs. I knew from my own experience that you can have quality and diversity and a reliable talent pool that can produce this, but there needed to be a better way. And so I actually stepped down from the job that I had, which was in this top floor with glass windows, into the dungeon and the second floor. It was dark, there weren't very many windows at all, and began the work, the hard work that we all do, to prove the company that there was another way. But in order to do that, in order to produce the quality, diverse talent pool in a reliable way, we needed to really partner with our public institutions. And in the first year, we had 3 pilots. The first started at Oakland, in the Peralta Community College system. The result of that partnership created a 55% success rate. And then the second cohort was at the College of San Mateo, and that jumped up to 79% success rate. And then by the time we got to the third cohort, we had enlisted all these other partners to give us their ideas, and that actually produced a 100% success rate. And since then, we were able to to modify and adapt it to different occupations. We brought it to different regions. In the end, we had worked with about 12 community colleges. And then I also went on to work with the CSU to partner with the CSUs. And that partnership continued to work. Several things I was really proud of. One, there were a lot of veterans who were able to make it through into these great jobs. Their alternative were really low-wage security guard jobs, and instead they began a career at the company in the $60,000, and before they retire, they'll break $200,000, and that's really the difference that we make when we're able to open the gates for our students and our communities into these great jobs of the future. The other lesson that I learned was also the value in forming networks so that we can all learn from our partners and each others. So just imagine if you had a course completion rate of 55%, and you had conversations with others and you picked up their ideas and their techniques, and then you jumped to 79% and then to 100%. I remember the first college figured out how to do certain things. The second college said, well, that's not possible, we can't do it. And once they spoke with the first college, they were able to do it, and so on and so on. And so there was real power in the network. And so many of the things that we do under Doing What Matters for Jobs and Economy is pull together our colleges into networks so that the collective effort is actually easier to achieve the outcomes that you desire. And so at the root of it all is this issue of social mobility. Social mobility is at an all-time low these days. If you look at the statistics, there's less than a 10% chance of students moving from the economic status that they are born into another economic status. So every day, the work that you do and how you do the work and how you do the work together is so important because this is a major issue in California these days. Our Board of Governors recognize this, and so the Board of Governors commissioned the Task Force on Workforce, Job Creation, and a Strong Economy, fondly nicknamed the Strong Workforce Task Force, to look at this issue of this gap. Now, we all know that California needs 1 million more bachelors and above. But less known is this issue here, which is the middle skill gap. California needs 1 million more associate's degrees, certificates, and industry-valued credentials. So they're sub-baccalaureate, more than a high school degree, but less than a bachelor's. And so this is really a sweet spot for the community colleges, because if we don't serve this particular space as community colleges, really there's no other system of higher education set up to really tackle this gap. And so with the task force, we wanted to design a very inclusive process. And some would say that this is probably in the last decade or so, this has been the most inclusive process they've seen in any of the initiatives from the system. We wanted first to hear the ideas from the field. So organized 14 regional and faculty conversations. So I remember being down here in Orange County and hearing from many of you. And so we heard from over 700 internal faculty and administrators and staff. 40% of the participants out of the 700 were faculty. And so we challenged them to tackle this issue of 1 million more gap, and what are the top 5 ideas that they collectively, in a room of maybe anywhere from 30 people to 80 people, to some places 100 people, what were your top 5 ideas? And so they prioritized, they discuss and prioritize ideas. And then we took it outside to the external stakeholders who depend on us for workforce. And over 500 people attended the Strong Workforce Town Hall and gave us feedback. And then from there, we had experts write up expert papers in the common themes that started to surface. And these were in the areas of workforce data and outcomes, curriculum development and instructors, structured pathways, student support, regional coordination and funding. So if you can imagine the 26 members of this task force, before they came into a room, not only was it their homework assignment to attend some of these convenings, but they had to read these 20 to 30-page papers in advance so that they were fully grounded in the reality, but also in the potential of the system. And so they met for 5 meetings. Their recommendations were then publicly posted. We had 221 comments and 10 letters to the website, and then from there, the recommendations were finalized. And there were environments like these, which were very similar to what happened down here in Orange County, where people came together and understood the context and helped come up with the recommendations. So there were themes that came from the field, and so I'll just quickly highlight some of these, and you can read them as I talk through. We don't want you to cheer too hard, but we heard very clearly that the curriculum process is too onerous and too slow. Yes, 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 okay. Yes. Is that supposed to do that? Well, okay, I'll extemporize. I'll speak on my feet here. So if you can imagine, I had one employer advisor talk to me and talk to my advisory body. And he said, you know, I've been 25 years in the, he headed up the fleet of a large company. And he said, in the past, it used to take about 25 years for a new technology to come around. But now, if you're dealing with combustion engines and electric vehicles and hybrid, that's already 10 years old technology. Today, it is fuel cells, and not even the first generation, but the second generation and third generation, and it's happening every 2 or 3 years. So if curriculum takes a year or even 2 years to get around the full cycle, we're almost teaching our students not the latest and the most relevant to make them competitive in the workplace. Secondly, that counselors, parents, and students don't have the full range of understanding of all their post-secondary options. And we need to do a better job of getting the word out on all these good programs to both the students and their family, but also the employer community who can provide internships, because the best trained candidate is one where they have formal training paired with an internship. These programs are expensive, and we have seen that pattern reflected in the state statistics. All colleges have been making decisions on the CTE portfolio year over year, and what has happened is collectively, when you roll it all up, there's been a 12-year decline in the state's CTE portfolio. So we recognize that a driver of that has been the high cost of some of these programs due to equipment and lab. There was also concern that there were too many metrics where, you're dealing with the career pathway trust grants and this grant and that grant, and we've got too many metrics and it's too onerous, the data collection. So please simplify it and reflect really the full array of workforce metrics. And we need more help understanding what the real need is, where the gaps are in the region. Now, equally, we were really impressed with the partners in the communities that came out. So you see here pictures from the Central Valley where over 135 folks turn out, including 75 employers, to really talk about their issues and their needs. And here's in Los Angeles, but this happened all across the state. So the young people are saying almost the analogous, the other side of the coin. Many of us, all of us, everybody, careers in nursing and doctors, right? How many of you know medical sonographer? 2. How many of you know medical tomographer? Maybe 5. How about health informatics? Okay. Some of these titles, these occupations, there are a lot of degrees in this room. There's a lot of degrees in my family. We just don't know that they exist. And so how do we counsel and help our students navigate through all these great career options where they may be a better match? So students ask for help navigating these doing career exploration, but navigating these options. And why they're particularly concerned is the level of student debt, which was averaging about $26,000, is a deterrent, which, to them to attend post-secondary education. So having them understand the full awareness of the range of post-secondary options is really important. And during this process, I remember back in the days when I was in my last company, we actually had a focus group with some students. It was very interesting because it caused me to question my own biases. Because I was trained, like many of you, through the academic system. I mean, think about it. I was very good between my four walls of my bedroom where I was studying in high school. I was really good in the four walls of the cube in my library at college, and I was really good in the four walls of another cube in my graduate school library. And I went on to be in the four walls of a desk, a cube at the office, and now I have four walls. It's at the corner, but it's four walls. And the students, when many people think about CTE, I, of course, also jump to the conclusion. It's, people want to work with a hand. It's like a little bit more dirty, So you come with a lot of biases, but speaking to the students, it really opened my mind. What they said was, we find the four walls so confining. It's almost a trap. That if you said to me that I have to go to school so that I can graduate, to go into a career where I'm trapped behind four walls, I don't want to do it. So it totally changed my perspective that students need different environments. And so we actually changed our outreach around these jobs. We actually started creating postcards that featured them on the road, in the air, off of helicopters, throwing desks out the door, because they did not want the things that I was so successful in, which was sitting behind my desk. And so I ask you, as you begin to do this work, is to look at all your unconscious biases, because we're going to need to work together to really create access for our students into the workforce. The business and industry also had their opinions, because we asked them, if we did things, if we stepped up our game and we delivered on certain commitments to you, these recommendations, what would you do? And they said, we will step up with more internship and jobs and involvement and partnership, authentic partnerships with your programs. But you are awfully complicated to navigate. We don't even know who is the first person to call in our need. And there are K-12 partnerships that are chasing healthcare. There are community colleges chasing healthcare. There are four-year colleges chasing healthcare. There are workforce systems chasing healthcare. You're driving us crazy. We cannot spend all our days attending a different advisory board. We want to work regionally, a single sector, and a unified approach. And if you could come together on the public sector side, we will deliver a higher caliber of involvement to you. And what I had found was, even working with the CSUs said, we can build these programs, but students don't come, especially in the STEM field. And when the employers stood with those programs, we found that there was not only greater enrollment and interest, but also greater completion. I mean, you could actually get it down to a science in terms of the completion when the employers partnered and stood with these programs. So we heard a lot from the industry, but the biggest one was that we were very complicated and we needed to simplify and work together on our side with all of our public partners so that they can more easily engage with us. Now, a question that often comes up is this question of regional, and I just need to give context for that. The federal workforce training program, the federal dollars and policies have shifted, and very much, you can't read all these words, but President Obama's words were all about regional alignment of workforce investment, education, economic development, in order to improve quality and relevance. And Governor Brown's budget language was also through coordinated regional planning efforts so that we can focus on high skill, high demand job and have meaningful employer engagement. So both the national policies, but also the state policies have shifted towards regions as an organizing unit because it's gotten so complicated for colleges, employers to figure out who to work with. And really, Steve will touch on the power of the region. And so all this information came together, all this feedback from the field and external stakeholders came together. And the task force comprised of 26 members did the heavy work. And half of those task force members were all designated from internal constituency groups. So here you see 3 chief instructional officers representing different regions of the area. We had 4 faculty members, 1 from CTE, 1 from general education, 1 from basic education, 1 from counseling. We had your very own Craig Justice right there. See his picture? Right here from Irvine Valley. Representing the chief instructional officers, we had the CSSOs, the chief business officers, CTE deans, we had students, we had trustees. And so, and 8 of the 13 came from Southern California, so you were well represented. And as a result, 25 recommendations were created, unanimously adopted by the Board of Governors, and they fell into these buckets, including student success, career pathways, data and outcomes, curriculum, CTE faculty, regional coordination, and funding. So you could see that these recommendations came out almost mirroring the feedback from the field. It was a very inclusive process and very much listened to all of you and our external stakeholders to generate. And so if you're interested in tracking what's going on with these, we have entered the implementation phase. The Strong Workforce page on our Doing What Matters for Jobs and Economy website can keep you up to date on where things are in terms of implementation. We have all different sides of the state agencies. We have the partnership with Academic Senate, with all these, the major organizations within the system to do the heavy lift. And as I said before, one of the reasons for the 12-year decline in the state CT portfolio has been that these programs are high cost. So the state heard very clearly that we needed, in order to do more and better CTE, there needed to be an infusion of investment. And so the state, the legislature, and the governor, because of this very inclusive process, an extensive process, eagerly put $200 million behind this endeavor in order to help our system deliver on 1 million more middle skill credential. And what that means also is for Orange County is roughly about 18 million. There's 60% of those dollars will go directly to to your district for your colleges to do more and better CTE programs. And then 40% stays at the regional level for coordinated discussion before they go on to colleges for doing more and better CTE program. So the work that the state has been doing, we've been listening to your complaints and concerns and ambitions and your ideas on how to close the gap in 1 million more credentials. We have propped up the standalone course approval to help you move curriculum, but we're also changing our curriculum process. We're having a lot of other conversations to remove things that you've said are in the way. And really the time has come where we're gonna turn the baton over to all of you in the room to work together within colleges, across region, to do more and better CTE and create access for our students into the world of work. And so to help you understand what's going on the ground, let me invite up Steve Blyer.
Thank you, Vaughn. I think you got the perspective from a state level how important this is. This is registered deeply with the legislature, and all of them, that coin of the realm, that language about regional work is you saw is written in Obama's language at the federal level. It's written in the state level. It'll be part of the new Perkins application when that money comes out. All this alignment working out regionally. So what I want to talk about with you is what are we seeing going on in Orange County? What has happened over the past 3 years, and what are the opportunities for us kind of moving forward? So as you can see up there, $11.1 million is going to be going to the districts directly to your colleges, to IVC, to Saddleback, to implement stronger, better, more programs in the CTE area. That's a huge volume of money. It doesn't disappear that fast. There we get it back. That's going to be, it's really important. These are expensive programs, and not only is this a $200 million this year, it's an ongoing $200 million year after year, which is significantly different than traditional grant writing, where you just go and fight each other for those monies. This is money you can count on, money that you can plan for into the future. But at the bottom number there, the $7.4 million is about the regional work. And so I want to talk a little bit about that within Orange County. What's really significant, and I've seen this evolve over the 3 years since I have been working in this position, is about data. We are getting better and better and better at looking at what does the data tell us. And like any project, if you just decide, oh, I want to go do something, if you don't know the data about it, it's going to be really hard to do a good job. It's hard to focus. So this is the most essential piece of the puzzle, which is what is the need out there? And that need should be defined as supply and demand. Very simple. What is the demand by industry? What are the positions that are needed out there? And what are we producing? At all of these colleges, 9 colleges in Orange County, the 2 colleges here, how many students are we producing to meet that 1 million additional CTE middle skill credentials? So we know there's a demand. In fact, within the last month and on this stage, the Orange County Business Council, who received funding through J.P. Morgan, the Orange County Pathways Project, did a presentation about what are the jobs like right now here in Orange County that are middle skill jobs. What are the opportunities? And what they found, this study, and you can go to the Orange County Business Council and download this document. It's very current and it's very interesting read. But this number right here, 32%. This is the number that is those middle skill jobs that currently exist in Orange County. There are a lot of them. And as Vaughn said, a middle skill job is more than high school, less than a 4-year degree. It's that sweet spot. And there's a lot of opportunity. In fact, the 3 biggest middle skill occupations in Orange County today are in these 3 sectors: healthcare, IT, and advanced manufacturing. In fact, 35 of the 50 fastest growing occupations over the next decade require less than a 4-year degree. That's a good signal if you're a community college student thinking about your future. And if you look at middle skill jobs since 2003, it is on a growth curve. 25% steady growth in terms of middle skill occupations that are available that are good paying wage jobs. Now, as much as we need data to understand what the need is, we need metrics to see how we're doing. What are we accountable for? How do they measure us? Well, we're all familiar with the Student Success Scorecard, and traditionally, these are the 2 metrics that we are held accountable for: completion and transfer. Well, what about the student that comes in who's already employed but needs to upgrade their skills? What is their opportunity to come in, take 2 classes, and exit? We have seen a lot of that. But the way our scorecard system used to work was those were counted as failures because they did not do completion, they did not do transfer. So they showed up as a failure. In January of this past year, the California Board of Governors adopted this category for reporting. This is significant. There are a lot of people that fit in this category. They are called skills builders. These are the people that are currently employed who want to upgrade their skills. They don't need a credential. They don't need all that. They need 2 courses. So they come into your campus, they take 2 courses, they exit. This is now being recorded in scorecard. This is significant because we all want to look good. As trustees, you're responsible to your constituency. You want to say you're doing a good job. you can now measure this as success, and this is very important. Data is being loaded up into a system called Launchboard. This is Launchboard 2.0, significantly better than we've had in the past, and it tracks this data. It looks at these things. So besides completion and transfer, we look at these other metrics. These are automatically collected and shown in Launchboard. So skills gain, field of study, did they take this course and then go into a field that way? What are their earnings like? How much change do they get? Are they in a living wage? What is their employment looking like? So these are outcomes. This is not just walking out the door. This is walking out the door and getting a job. And that's a significant shift in the kinds of things that we look at for accountability. So here we are. We've got, as you saw on that opening screen that Vaughn had shared, we've got $11.1 million that's going to go directly to the colleges. Of that, 7.4, as I said, is regional. So the question comes up with, why collaborate regionally?
Nope, there we are. So not only is this an amazing facility, look at this place. This is an unbelievable facility, and hats off to IVC for putting this in place, to be able to be up on a stage with this, and then to get the great help here. But anyhow, let me continue. Why do we collaborate regionally? If the coin of the realm of organization is regional, why is it important? Well, when you have a big task and you're a single college, it's pretty hard to get that seesaw to tip the other way. But if you put other people in play, it is going to be able to do that heavy lifting. Now, I want to give some context. How many of you have ever gotten together with your friends and say, we want to throw a party? Well, okay, so you know what a party needs, and that's, remember the data, what are our needs, what's the business telling us? Well, we need dessert, we need salads, we need a main dish, we need drinks, etc. So obviously, you're going to try to get that together. But what happens if nobody talks to each other? There's a strong likelihood there may be no desserts, or there may be too many drinks. So you know the need, but if you're not talking to each other, you're going to end up with a party that is insufficiently designed to be successful. What I want to share with you are our experiences we're seeing going on here in Orange County, LA County, about these conversations about putting together that lunch menu, that party menu. We do have the right drinks. This is in energy efficiency, HVACR, so heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and refrigeration is what that stands for, but it's energy efficiency. This was a collaborative of 8 colleges, and these were the faculty at these 8 colleges got together with the first wave of money, that $50 million enhancement money, and they said, you know what, let's look at our programs. And so they started observing, they brought their curriculums in together, and they noticed that there was no one college that had a complete module of everything that was needed. But when they sat down and diagnosed what everybody had, they collectively understood what it really took to do that. And the challenge that they have is they were currently graduating almost 400 graduates to go into this field. But industry was telling them, remember that 1 million? Industry is telling them we need 1,200 graduates to come out. We have got to up our game. And in addition to that, remember that skills builders? You've got 24,000 people employed in this industry that need their skills upgraded. So there's immense opportunity here to work on this. So what the faculty did was they looked at their curriculum and they adopted a standardized, similar goals of their curriculum, articulated pathways. And they came to an agreement that any student that went to any one of these colleges, the other colleges would accept that as meeting that criteria. This allows student portability, which is really essential. Students don't live and stay in just one location. They travel. They will travel to multiple colleges. What they want is they want opportunities to move through the system, get a good education, good skills, and then actually get a good job. So that's their intention. And I think this is a design, this is a good example of a regional strategy of adopting curriculum that is going to meet the needs. They currently plan to expand to 14 colleges that will participate in this strategy. Another example of planning together are these gatekeepers. And when I was looking through the list of, I think it was IVC, you had something like 6 of your new full-time staff are in the counseling field. Counselors are the gatekeepers. I have experience both in K-12 and in community college. And in K-12, your counselors are generally driven by A to G. And so they route students in directions. And what we want to look at is, how do these counselors, both at middle school, high school, and community college, how are they looking this all together? Well, in Orange County, 2 years ago, they held the first annual, and they had over 200 counselors from high school and community college come, spend a full day doing workshops and learning to work together. Last year, it increased to 300. This year, on October 14th, they're going to hold at the Hyatt in Huntington Beach the third annual of over 400 middle school, high school, and college counselors looking at pathways. So pathways is very critical, and as much as regional was showing up in language, pathways, the word pathways is showing up. And it's like a map. So if you are a new student or think of a 16-year-old gets their car and they want to drive to San Francisco and they live in, say, Orange. Well, they hop in their car and they start driving. Well, they'll eventually get there, but they might discover they've driven down a road that they need to back up and go around the Tehachapis, and maybe it's better to go up the valley. It takes them twice as long to get up to San Francisco. The same thing is true with navigating their careers. So when counselors coordinate between the high school, between K-12, and between community college, they can create much better seamless pathways. And when students have a roadmap that is well thought out, well designed, ties into their ed plan, really gets them, that's a bonus for those students. They are going to be able to navigate, get those kind of courses when they need them, where they need them to move to meet their needs. A product that is going to be coming out, a community college program inventory. We did an analysis of all the programs being offered by all 9 colleges in Orange County. That is being mapped out in a web-based tool so that a K-12 counselor or middle school counselor or a parent could say, you know, I'm interested in HVAC. Where are they? And that can show you which campuses have those programs. Where should I navigate to? The last example I'm going to give you about a good use of regional thinking is, this occurred in the Bay Area. And Silicon Valley, think IT. Working on computers, as we had seen earlier, this whole industry changes in a cycle that's very fast. So how does an individual college buy all the software, get it all running, and et cetera, and try to keep up to date? It's tough. So what they did in the Bay Area, with their 28 colleges, 25 of them elected to invest together. They spent just almost $1 million, and they invested in a virtual net lab. It's all housed on one campus. It's all administered on one campus, but it's available to 25 colleges. That cost of almost $1 million would have cost, they saved themselves $5.6 million had they tried to do it individually. So it's a huge efficiency savings. In addition, these students have access on a 24/7 basis to premier lessons and labs and experiments and experiences to better prepare them for this. And it's always updated on a timely basis. So new software is out, they upgrade to the latest version. This is collaboration where it makes good sense that 40% to team together and evolve in that manner. So I'm going to just jump over quickly to skills, because we heard this middle skill jobs. Middle skill, what are these skills things? As we saw, the skills in the CTE world change rapidly. So that in the auto industry, where it was about changing spark plugs and the timing and the carburetors and so forth, which lasted us for a good 40, 50 years, that's changing. There are no spark plugs in cars anymore. There's no carburetors. And you look at the Tesla there, it's over 30 million lines of code. That's what's driving cars today. This is a very technical area, and what we're seeing in almost all our industries is the technical skills that are needed to be successful. And that's true in these middle skill and almost all these areas. So I'm going to try to jump through these different occupations. So healthcare. Healthcare is more than just checking blood these days. It's in the biotech field. We're really doing diagnostics, where those people need to be able to accurately do the testing and provide that data to doctors. In the area of delivery, you know, the trucks that used to deliver your supplies, et cetera, look what Amazon's done. This is done in you can do it in 1 day now, 1 day delivery. And how many people here use Amazon? Yeah. You know, I mean, I do. It's just like, why would I get in a car and drive somewhere when I can get this thing the next day? So, but the logistics to navigate this, to run this system, to make this work, is a lot of technical skills that are in that. Manufacturing. You know, fabrication, arc welding, those have been with us, and they are still staying with us. But if you look down below, we're going into 3D printing, CNC machining. That's technical, especially the 3D printing. And it is just revolutionizing, and it's actually bringing back manufacturing from overseas, where now small companies can take this technology and build the items locally here in the United States. HVAC, which I talked about earlier, is really complex, and it's moving to systems control. This is a much more technical field than it was 10, 15 years ago. And those 24,000 employees that work in this field, they were trained on earlier generations. They need those technical upgrade skills. They want to be skills builders. Those are students that can go to your campus and be taken care of. As well as hard skills, we know that there are soft skills. And every time we talk to business and industry, these are ones that are very important to them. And these are ones that are important for all instructors. It doesn't matter if you're general ed, if you're CTE, everybody is involved in this work. I recently read this book, and I'm a grandparent now, and I think about my grandkids. I read this book, I listened to it on the Brookings Institute, they interviewed the authors. Really the best way I've seen talking about these 6 C's. And we hear these terminologies: collaboration, communication, content, critical thinking, creative innovation, and confidence. This book does an excellent job of saying, when does that stuff happen in children, and when does it happen progressively in each one of those areas over time? They've actually made a scorecard that you can actually kind of see where a classroom is, et cetera. So those are really critical. But just as critical are these skills. This is what employers want when a student comes into their business. They want them to be ethical. They want to have social responsibility. They want them to dress appropriately. They want to be able to count that when they are going to come in, they come in. So these are primary skills that are soft skills. They're critical. Those are ones that we need to make sure that our students have. Now, when you came into the building in the back here, this Performing Arts Center, I don't know if you happened to pass it, but this Saddleback College, LA Trade Tech, and Golden West College teamed together because they wanted to take this technology and put it into a real application. And so parked outside there is an electric car. This is fully, if they put a license plate on it, it's legal to drive on the street. But this car can be broken down and rebuilt. Broken down and rebuilt. And broken down and rebuilt. That's an amazing tool for the 21st century. So in the summertime, when they were doing training with the auto tech teachers, they invited in the math and science teachers, and their eyes lit up. They said, wow, what a great way for me to teach physics. What a great way for me to teach electricity. And so if we think about these opportunities of working together in a collaborative fashion, physics, chemistry, they will all benefit from what we see here. So I think that's a really good example, and I want to thank you, Tony Tang. I don't know where Tony is, but a special thank you, a shout out to Tony right over there. Tony is a great regional visionary thinker. I love working with Tony. He really gets the big picture. He really sees how we work together and to produce much, much better results. So, the end game. Ultimately, unless you're independently wealthy or have a very rich relative, all of us, no matter where we're either on the 2-year track or transfer to the others, that thing in the middle, that's what we want. We want a living wage job where we can live in this community. That's the real end game. And all of these businesses have opportunities for our students. Remember that 1 million? Well, and you saw the report for Orange County, there are a lot of opportunities for work and for employment in this area. So what I'd like to end with is, if we care about economic mobility, if we care about access, then I'd say it would be best if we put our money to the good use to build a strong task force for Orange County. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vaughn and Steve, for laying out the details of this visionary plan. This certainly gives us some additional focus as we enter into our long-term educational planning cycle. Please join me once again in thanking our VIP speakers. All right, so faculty service pins are next. At this time, I'm happy to say we're going to honor our valued faculty for their years of service. So will the trustees, presidents, and Vice Chancellor David Begay please join me on stage? I'm going to turn this section over to Vice Chancellor David Begay.
Good morning. We are about to celebrate centuries of experience, and no, it's not the Board of Trustees. It's going to be our faculty. We're going to talk about 670 years of service of the district. So the game plan is we have the trustees over here. Teddy Lorch is right over there with the pins. So when I call your name, if you can come forward and come on this side of the platform, Teddy will hand the pin to the presidents, and then if you can go through the gauntlet and shake all the trustees' hands. And by the way, they're proud of you for all the work that you've done. So let's give the trustees a round of applause. So we're going to start with 5 years of experience. So when call your name, you can come forward on this side over here, come across, and then exit this side. That'd be wonderful. So thank you very much. Brittany Adams from IVC. Teresa Bear from IVC, Saddleback. Carolyn Danko from Saddleback. Cheryl Delson from Irvine Valley. Ryan Evan from Saddleback College. Cool, we got one. Krill Gladkovsky. Hope I didn't do too bad on that one. Okay. Scott Grubble. Lawrence Grahava. Rebecca Grohl from IVC. Anthony Lynn from IVC. Chan Loki from IVC. I think they're outside looking at the electric car. Safia Mamoon from Saddleback. Maria Mayenzel from Saddleback. Patricia McGinley from Saddleback. Jedrick Malarski from Saddleback. Lucas Ochoa from Saddleback. Joel Sheldon from Irvine Valley. Deanna Valdez from Saddleback. And Colin Williams from Saddleback. Cool. Hello there. With 10 years of experience, we have Linda Call from Saddleback. Barbara Tamiellis from Saddleback. With 15 years of experience, we have David Francisco from Saddleback. Phyllis Kucharski from Saddleback. Kent McDowell from Irvine Valley. Kurt Meyer from Irvine Valley. Oh. Catherine Meyer Canales from Saddleback. June Milovich from Saddleback. Bill Stevenson from Saddleback. Rita Tamer from Saddleback. Carrie Tucker from Irvine Valley, and Carla Westfall from Saddleback. 20 years of experience. We have 4 people. We have Jerry Hernandez from Irvine Valley, Jeffrey Kaufman from Irvine Valley, Catherine Millistan-Egas from Irvine Valley, and James Repka from Saddleback. "25 years experience, Doug Barr from Saddleback. Brenda Boron from Irvine Valley. Mariana De Saracho from Saddleback. Eugene Evenko from Saddleback. Tony Huntley from Saddleback. John Lakitra from Irvine Valley. Beatrice Seng from Irvine Valley. Hey, Brenda. Oh, congratulations. Cool. Yeah. 30 years of experience. That should be dramatic. 30 years of experience. Ooh, here we go. Wendy Gordon from Saddleback College. Bob Urell, Irvine Valley. Ken Woodward from Saddleback. "35 years of experience. Ooh. Bob Cosgrove, Saddleback College. And Paula Jones from Saddleback College. So Bob is making his way across the stage. We'll kind of wait for him. It's been 35 years. Okay. Jeez. So trustees, thank you much. 607 years of experience. One more round of applause for them all. Chancellor? Okay, thank you.
So this concludes our session today. I want to take a moment to thank the people who made this event possible. First and foremost, thank you to Irvine Valley College, particularly President Rockmore, for providing this beautiful space. Thank you very much. Thank you to Sonia Bankston for taping the session so that we can stream it on the district website and share it widely. Special thanks to the Fine Arts Division, especially Carol Dana and Professor Susan Betcher for arranging a student performance. Thanks to the lighting, staging, and sound folks. Those folks were awesome. Patrick Taylor and Mark Peterson for their help behind the scenes. Thank you. And finally, a special thank you goes to the Public Affairs and Chancellor's Office staff for their thoughtful and planning of this event, especially Terry Flugelman, Grace Garcia, and Joyce Bartolome. Thank you. So as you can see with this year, we have some very exciting changes and opportunities ahead. Let's continue to support each other, work together, and keep students at the forefront of all that we do. Thank you today for coming, and have a wonderful and invigorating fall semester. Thank you.